The world watches with bated breath. Tensions simmer between the United States and China. A new Cold War is brewing. This rivalry is not just about military might, it is about economic power, technological dominance, and global influence. The stakes are incredibly high. The future of the world order hangs in the balance. The US is clearly trying to limit China's growth. This is evident in its policies. Trade wars, sanctions, and technological restrictions are all part of this strategy. But why is the US so worried about China's rise? The reasons are complex and multifaceted. On the surface, the US cites concerns about Taiwan, espionage, and China's military expansion. These are legitimate concerns. However, they do not tell the whole story. There are deeper, more fundamental reasons for the US's anxiety. This essay will delve into the heart of this rivalry. We will explore the historical, economic, and political factors that are driving this new Cold War. Understanding these factors is crucial for anyone who wants to make sense of the current global landscape. The US often justifies its actions against China by pointing to Taiwan, espionage, and military expansion. Let's examine these justifications closely. Taiwan has been a point of contention for decades. The US has a policy of strategic ambiguity regarding Taiwan's status. This means that the US does not explicitly state whether it would defend Taiwan if China were to attack. This ambiguity is intended to deter China from taking any aggressive actions. Espionage is another area of concern. Both the US and China engage in espionage activities. However, the US alleges that China's espionage is more widespread and sophisticated. This is a serious concern as it could give China an unfair advantage in areas like technology and defense. China's military expansion is also worrying to the US. China has been rapidly modernizing its military in recent years. It has built new warships, developed advanced missiles, and expanded its military presence in the South China Sea. This buildup has raised concerns about China's intentions in the region. While these justifications are not without merit, they are not the whole story. The real reason for the US's anxiety lies in China's growing economic and technological might. To understand the US-China rivalry, we need to understand the concept of the Thucydides trap. This term, coined by Graham Allison, describes the dangerous dynamic that arises when a rising power challenges an existing dominant power. History is replete with examples of this trap leading to conflict. The Peloponnesian War, which engulfed ancient Greece, is a classic example. The rising power of Athens challenged the established dominance of Sparta. Fear, mistrust, and miscalculation led to a devastating war that reshaped the ancient world. Today, the US is the dominant power, and China is the rising power. China's economic growth has been nothing short of remarkable. It is now the world's second largest economy and is on track to overtake the US in the coming decades. This shift in economic power is inevitably shifting the balance of global power. The Thucydides trap suggests that this dynamic is inherently unstable. As China grows stronger, the US may feel threatened and tempted to take actions to maintain its dominance. This could lead to a spiral of escalation and conflict. Within the US, there are different schools of thought on how to deal with China. Two prominent schools of thought are the Containment School and the Global Bully School. The Containment School, advocated by scholars like John Mearsheimer, believes that the US should focus on containing China's rise. They argue that China's growing power poses a threat to US interests, and that the US should take steps to limit China's influence in the world. The Global Bully School, on the other hand, believes that the US should maintain its global dominance at all costs. They argue that the US is the indispensable nation, and that it has a responsibility to shape the world order according to its values. These two schools of thought represent different approaches to foreign policy. The Containment School is more cautious and pragmatic, while the Global Bully School is more assertive and ideological. The debate between these two schools of thought is likely to continue to shape US policy towards China in the years to come. Section 5. A shift in the tide, from engagement to containment. For decades, the United States pursued a policy of engagement with China. The hope was that by encouraging China's economic integration into the global system, the US could nudge China towards political liberalization. This policy was based on the belief that economic interdependence would lead to political convergence. However, this policy began to change in the early 2010s. China's economic rise continued unabated, but there were few signs of political opening. On the contrary, China's government became more authoritarian under Xi Jinping. This led to a growing sense in the United States that engagement had failed. The Obama administration began to shift U.S. policy towards China, emphasizing a pivot to Asia. This pivot was designed to counter China's growing influence in the region. The Trump administration took a more confrontational approach, launching a trade war and imposing sanctions on Chinese companies. The Biden administration has continued this tough stance on China, describing the relationship as one of strategic competition. This shift from engagement to containment is a major turning point in U.S.-China relations. Section 6. The Kissinger Doctrine: Maintaining Hegemony Through Debt. To understand the U.S.'s current economic posture, we need to go back to the 1970s. Henry Kissinger, then Secretary of State, recognized a fundamental shift in the U.S. economy. The U.S. was transitioning from a creditor nation to a debtor nation. Kissinger's solution was bold and controversial. He proposed tripling the U.S. deficit. This may seem counterintuitive, but Kissinger had a strategic rationale. By running a large deficit, the U.S. would create demand for foreign exports. This, in turn, would maintain the U.S. dollar's position as the world's reserve currency. This system, known as the Kissinger Doctrine, has been in place ever since. It has allowed the U.S. to live beyond its means and maintain its global dominance. However, this system is now under threat from China's rise. China is challenging the U.S.'s economic dominance in several ways. It is promoting its own currency, the yuan, as an alternative to the dollar. It is also building alternative financial institutions such as the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. These moves are eroding the dollar's dominance and threatening the Kissinger Doctrine. Section 7. The Rise of Cloud Capital: A Tale of Two Systems. In the 21st century, economic power is increasingly driven by technology. Both the U.S. and China are at the forefront of the technological revolution. One key area of competition is cloud capital. Cloud capital refers to the vast amounts of data and algorithms controlled by big tech companies. These companies, such as Google, Amazon, and Facebook in the U.S., and Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei in China, have amassed unprecedented economic and political power. China has a unique advantage in the race for cloud capital. Its communist government has a close relationship with its tech sector. This allows China to effectively leverage its tech sector for national strategic goals. In contrast, the U.S. has a more adversarial relationship between its government and its tech sector. This is partly due to the U.S.'s strong tradition of antitrust law and its commitment to free speech. However, this adversarial relationship may put the U.S. at a disadvantage in the competition for cloud capital. Section 8. China's Digital Superhighway: A Challenge to the Dollar's Reign. One of China's most significant technological achievements is its digital payment system. China has leapfrogged the West in this area. Mobile payments are ubiquitous in China, with even street vendors accepting payments through apps like Alipay and WeChat Pay. This advanced digital payment system has profound implications for the global financial order. It provides an alternative to the traditional dollar-denominated financial system. This is particularly appealing to countries that are looking to reduce their reliance on the U.S. dollar. The Ukraine war and subsequent sanctions against Russia have accelerated this trend. Many countries are now seeking to diversify their foreign exchange reserves and reduce their exposure to the U.S. financial system. China's digital payment system offers a viable alternative. The U.S. is acutely aware of this threat. It has taken steps to hinder China's progress in this area. For example, the CHIPS Act, passed in 2022, is designed to boost U.S. semiconductor manufacturing and reduce reliance on Chinese chips. This is just one example of the escalating technological competition between the U.S. and China. Section 9. Conclusion: A Future Uncertain. The U.S.-China rivalry is the defining geopolitical challenge of our time. It is a complex and multifaceted rivalry, driven by a confluence of historical, economic, and technological factors. Understanding this rivalry is essential for anyone who wants to make sense of the 21st century. The U.S. is right to be concerned about China's rise. China's growing economic and technological might poses a serious challenge to U.S. hegemony. However, the U.S. must be careful not to fall into the Thucydides trap. A confrontational approach is likely to be counterproductive and could lead to disastrous consequences. The best way to manage this rivalry is through a combination of competition and cooperation. The US and China have common interests in areas like climate change, pandemics, and nuclear non-proliferation. By working together on these shared challenges, the US and China can build trust and reduce the risk of conflict. The future of the US-China relationship is uncertain. However, one thing is clear. This rivalry will shape the world for decades to come. It is a rivalry that we cannot afford to ignore.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.